Power continues to go unchecked and rampant as we hit the 6th and 7th level spells. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Here, continuing on with our guide and look at the 1st edition Pathfinder Oracle, today delving into their 6th and 7th level spells, and, well, like any full spellcasting class, no matter how much I bang on about it, it's worth repeating. Things just keep continuing to escalate and deteriorate for your DM and the various opponents that might be in your way. Just the staggering array of spells that you have as options at your fingertips is incredible, but the fact that you're a spontaneous spellcaster and you can throw out so many more of them per day in comparison to your cleric counterparts is amazing. So it definitely lends itself pretty well, and this is again on top of the fact that you have the various revelations from your selected mystery. Now, your curse might be affecting you in many ways, some mildly, some barely at all, and some in horrendous ways, but even still, you're deriving benefit out of your curses, and everything just blends together to create a terrifyingly potent class. I think that cannot be stated enough. But before we get into what exactly we have on offer for you today in terms of spells, if I could speak right, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now we'll actually start talking about your spells, and for your 6th level spells, the first thing we picked out for you today is Source Severance. Create a 5-foot radius area around you that suppresses either divine or arcane magic, supernatural, and spell-like abilities, your choice on casting, and this works as anti-magic field. While in effect, you must make a concentration check, DC 20 plus twice the spell level, to cast any other of your spells, and this lasts 10 minutes per level. So this is something that is absolutely going to ruin somebody's day, especially since this also suppresses supernatural and spell-like abilities as well. And you're completely shutting down an entire array of magic, either divine or arcane. Now, this doesn't have as broad an effect as, say, Anti-Magic Field does, shutting down spells from divine or arcane magic, but it is limited in its spell level, whereas this is just permanently shutting off a specific field of magic overall, while leaving the other more or less untouched. Now, the fact that you have to make a concentration check in order to cast your own magic hurts, especially as a full spellcasting class, but given that this doesn't really seem to shut down your own revelations and abilities and the like, this will do quite a bit to still help an anti-magic caster, an anti-magic oracle like yourself, get in close and start dealing with those most significant of opponents. But then, to also keep helping you and your allies with that matter, we have Summon Monster 6. Summon creatures at a point within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels, and you're going to summon either a huge elemental, an Aranes, a Liland Azada, or 1d3 creatures from Summon Monster 5, or 1d4 plus 1 from Summon Monster 4. Both of those are still going to give you some effective creatures with some interesting abilities that will still be useful and helpful to you on whatever battlefield you find yourself. And remember, you're always going to be looking to set up flanking bonuses, create little protected zones, areas where you can put their various abilities to great use. And every single swing or spell that your opponent fires at a summoned creature is one less that's going towards you and your allies, so it's incredibly helpful. But then, moving on from there, we have Greater Dispel Magic. Target one spellcaster, creature, object, or 20-foot radius area. For the targeted version on one spellcaster, dispel one spell for every 4 caster levels, starting with the highest. Area is roll 1 Dispel check and apply that to each creature in the area, excluding magic items, or counterspelling as Dispel magic but with a +4 bonus. Now for targeted, that's either spellcaster or creature, not just a spellcaster. This will remove and strip away so many buffing spells and protective effects from your targets. It's incredibly useful. Greater Dispel magic's use cannot be understated, and given that you will end up with such a high number of 6th level spell slots, you can make pretty rapid regular use of this over the course of several fights. So don't be afraid to use this to counterspell, to strip away protections, to aid your allies overall in a fight against a terrifying enemy opponent. This greatly reduces the threat that they present. Now, another option for you, and it is going to be incredibly useful for you, is Dimensional Blade. For 1 round, a melee weapon you wield becomes 2-dimensional, making all attacks with it melee touch attacks. Force effects such as Mage Armor will still apply AC. And just bear in mind that if you're using a weapon that depends on weight to deal damage, namely bludgeoning weapons, they are going to deal half their damage. So if you can combo this with a weapon that with a weapon proficiency that your deity of choice, if you have a deity of choice, can provide, say a greatsword or a longsword, this will greatly aid your damage output and help to compensate for the fact that you don't have the highest base attack bonus, which makes feats like Power Attack that much more useful for you and will really let you ruin the day of whatever poor schmuck you just used Greater Dispel magic on. So all the way around, Dimensional Blade can be incredibly useful and will help to boost your abilities in melee quite a bit. Then we have Animate Objects. For 1 round of levels, select 1 small object per caster level within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level and animate them. You can animate larger objects. Medium equals 2 small objects. Large is 4, huge is 8, gargantuan is 16, and colossal counts as 32 small objects. And each object will immediately attack whoever you designate. The targets can be changed as a move action as per if you were directing an active spell. Now this is just such a great force multiplier, especially since most objects, especially if you're animating statuary, different kinds of large column stone creature, carvings and the like, those things tend to be incredibly durable and can pack a hell of a punch, especially as they increase in size. So, Animate Objects is almost what I would call a must-have, but it is competing against great spells like Greater Dispel magic. So, choose wisely, but it's definitely very useful. Another incredibly useful spell, though, is Blade Barrier. At any point large enough within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level, summon a great bladed wall, either 20 feet per level long or a ringed wall with a 5-foot radius for every 2 levels. Both options will be 20 feet tall. The blades are made of pure force, dealing 1d6 damage per caster level, maxing out at 15d6, and will give a +4 cover bonus to AC and a +2 cover bonus to your reflex saves for any attacks or effects that are passing through the blade barrier. So not only is it a good defensive battlefield control buff, but this is going to do a significant amount of damage and really does a lot to trump the clockwork wall that we listed as an example from earlier, making it possible to really switch that one out, possibly for Stonewall, given the amount of utility that you can get out of that. But the effectiveness of Blade Barrier cannot be overstated, and especially since they're made of pure force, that's going to affect a wider array of creatures than a lot of other purely physical effects might. Then, we move on from our 6th level spells to the next step of 7th level spells, and we're starting off with an absolute doozy of a spell, with Greater Bestow Curse. Touch a target creature to force a will save. On failure, select one of the following: -12 to an ability score or -6 to 2 ability scores. Then we have -8 to attack rolls, saves, ability checks, and skill checks. each turn, having a 25% chance to act normally, otherwise taking no actions, or bestowing Curse of the Ages, DC 17 will, once a day, or the target will age 1 year, or Unluck. Once every hour, DC 20 will save to resist it, or end up re-rolling any roll and take the worst result. Now, those last two, those are better off for roleplay. They're not the best for the immediate need combat situation. I actually really love Curse of the Ages and Unlock. That's just fantastic. What a great way to ruin somebody's day. But it's that -8 to attack rolls, saves, ability checks, and skill checks that is really significant, or leaving your target with only a 25% chance to act normally. Otherwise, they just stand there taking no actions. Those two options are amazing, so much so that they beat out the -12 to an ability score or a -6 to 2. I mean, the -8 to everything just beats that out pretty handily, and that's significant given how big of a hit a -6 to 2 ability scores really is. And bear in mind that these are just examples of things that Greater Bestow Curse can do. If you look online on the system reference document, you'll see they list a bunch of other effects that are optional to this, and they specifically state you should create other effects that are in line with the similar kind of power available here and with those alternate effects. And that's wild. Depending on the creativity that you have and what your DM's willing to say is, okay, you could really do a lot to mess with someone in significant ways. And best of all, not only is this mechanically effective, but it fits the fluff and the feel of an oracle very well. I mean, how many oracles end up bestowing curses upon those coming seeking their wisdom from all kinds of tales and folklore and legend and mythologies? Absolutely a wonderful spell to have. Then, another great one to have, it's a classic, it's appeared on every spell level so far, we have Summon Monster 7. Summon creatures at a point within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels. Summon a Greater Elemental, a Bebelith, Bone Devil, or 1d3 creatures from Summon Monster 6, or 1d4 plus 1 from Summon Monster 5. And do I need to really go over why this is awesome? Greater Elementals can just do so much damage and go through so many, depending on what the effects are, but you get utility because you can select what kind of elemental you want, and fire's certainly rarely going to be a bad pick. Now, a lot of creatures have immunity to fire, and but so will the fire elemental. The fire elemental is going to be immune to fire as well, and not everything on the battlefield is necessarily going to be immune to fire. So they can still do a ton of damage while resisting a lot of the damage output of some of your primary threats, and that can be a great bit of utility for you on the battlefield. And everything else here, I mean, Bebeliths, Bone Devils, they have great abilities going for them as well. But we go on to another spell for you here, and that's Particulate Form, and this one's great. Select one creature a level, no two of which can be more than 30 feet apart, and for 1 round per level, the creatures become clouds of particles, gaining fast healing 1, immunity to bleed, critical hits, sneak attacks, and other precision damage. Fast healing increases by 1 at 10th, 15th, and 20th level. Targets can end the effect as a swift action, healing 5d6 points of damage, and attempt an extra save versus 1 disease or poison. This is a hell of a defensive buff. I mean, this doesn't say anything about it impairing your ability to deal any kind of damage, use your abilities, or otherwise affect your opponents, while still making you immune to all of these other things, and giving you fast healing on top of it, and then healing as a kicker at the end of the effect, or if it's voluntarily ended. That's amazing. That's great to have. It'd be stupid to not have this on your list, or at least, if not stupid, if it's fitting with your particular theme, your build, your motif, then that's one thing. That's a whole nother thing entirely. But from a purely mechanical standpoint, Particulate Form is absolutely a must-have on your list. But moving on from there, we come to another one that's a classic and is probably something that a lot of people will expect a full divine spellcaster to have, and that's Greater Restoration. Touch one target creature to dispel all permanent and temporary negative levels on the creature. This also dispels all magical effects penalizing their abilities, cures all temporary ability damage, and restores all points permanently drained from all ability scores. It also eliminates fatigue and exhaustion and removes all forms of insanity, confusion, and similar mental effects, plus all the effects that restoration and lesser restoration provide as well. I mean, this is just a very upgraded version of that, and this is incredible for how much it can do to restore your allies, especially since almost all of these are debilitating. I mean, negative levels suck. They're not as bad as they used to be in 3rd edition D&D, but they're still awful to have. Temporary and permanent ability score drain can be crippling. Fatigue, exhaustion, insanity, confusion, and similar mental effects. Those are all debilitating for damn near every single class. Greater Restoration is damn near must-have. If you can't have it on your spell list, then look out for any items, any staves that will give you access to it. This is just great to have, although if you opt not to go for it, at least Restoration should still do in a pinch for most maladies that you'll encounter. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Certainly this is not a complete list of every single 6th and 7th level spell. This doesn't go into detail of spells that are kind of bad for you, which includes, unfortunately, a lot of blasting spells, and certainly the various cure light wounds, cure moderate wounds, cure critical wounds, things like that. Spells like that are not the best, most efficient use of your spell slots. Certainly wands of cure light wounds are going to get the job done for you much more effectively and efficiently overall. But there's still so many other really cool spells on each of these levels for the Oracle spell list. So go on down to the comments below, let me know what spells you might recommend as well, and certainly let me know if you liked or disliked the video, and we'll engage in discussion. And remember to hit those like or dislike buttons, and to subscribe here to the Gamers Den if you haven't done so already. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.